On this lecture, you will learn how to use the JavaScript if-else-if statement to check multiple conditions and execute the corresponding block if a condition is true. The if and if-else statements accepts a single condition and executes the if or else block accordingly based on the condition. To check multiple conditions and execute the corresponding block if a condition is true, you use the if-else-if statement like this. In this syntax, the if-else-if statement has three conditions. In theory, you can have as many conditions as you want to, where each else-if branch has a condition. The if-else-if statement checks the conditions from top to bottom and executes the corresponding block if the condition is true. The if-else-if statement stops evaluating the remaining conditions as soon as a condition is true. For example, if the condition 2 is true, the if-else-if statement won't evaluate the condition 3. If all the conditions are false, the if-else-if statement executes the block in the else branch. The following flowchart illustrates how the if-else-if statement works. The following example uses the if-else-if statement to get the month name from a month number. In this example, we compare the month with 12 numbers from 1 to 12 and assign the corresponding month name to the month name variable. Since the month is 6, the expression month equals 6 evaluates to true. Therefore, the if-else-if statement assigns the literal string June to the month name variable. Therefore, you see June in the console. If you change the month to a number that is not between 1 and 12, you'll see the invalid month in the console because the else clause will execute. The console produces an output on the corresponding number of the month set in each line of code. The following example calculates the body mass index, BMI, of a person. It uses the if-else-if statement to determine the weight status based on the BMI. First, declare two variables that hold the weight in kilograms and height in meters. In a real-world application, you'll get these values from a web form. Second, calculate the body mass index by dividing the weight by the square of the height. Third, determine the weight status based on the BMI using the if-else-if statement. Finally, output the weight status to the console. This code first initializes variables for weight and height, representing someone's weight in kilograms and their height in meters. It then calculates the BMI, body mass index, using the formula BMI equals weight slash height asterisk height. Following this, it declares a variable called weight status without assigning it a value yet. The code then enters a series of conditional statements to determine the weight status based on the calculated BMI. If the BMI is less than 18.5, the weight status is set to underweight. If it falls between 18.5 and 24.9 inclusive, the weight status is labeled as healthy weight. If the BMI falls between 25 and 29.9 inclusive, the weight status becomes overweight. If none of these conditions are met, meaning the BMI is 30 or greater, the weight status is categorized as obesity. Finally, the code prints out the determined weight status to the console. There are only two things to change here, that is the height and weight. The formula is constant. In summary, use the JavaScript if-else-if statement to check multiple conditions and execute the corresponding block if a condition is true.